Hey, what's up? My name is Bobby, aka Paginator, and I'm here today with a book review. I just finished reading Wild Blue Wonder by Carly Sorosiak about 3 minutes ago, and ran to make this review because I really want to talk about this book. Now, I will let you know if I get to any spoilers. Um, and I also do want to take a minute to let you know right at the beginning of this that I am going to be giving away my second copy of this. I'm going to set up a link on Rafflecopter and I will have it in the information down below. You need to be 18 or older to win, and you need to live in the US because I just can't afford the international shipping. Sorry. So, Wild Blue Wonder. This came to me in 2 subscription boxes that you may have seen recently if you watch my channel frequently, and I was excited to get 2 copies because sometimes I like to have a copy at home and a copy in my classroom, but I decided that due to some of the young adult material that it wouldn't be the best for maybe 7th graders to read, so I'm going to be giving away that second copy as I mentioned. But this book was so beautiful and so wonderfully written. Yeah, it's just good. So the 2 boxes that this came in were the Bookish box and Once Upon a YA Book Club. And in the YA Book Club box, it comes with gifts that you open when you get to certain pages in the book. And so I'm also going to be showing you the gifts that came with this book as I tell you the story. Our main character is Quinn, who is a teenage girl who lives at a place called The Hundreds. It's a summer camp that her family owns and runs every summer, and 100 kids come at a time to this 100-acre summer camp, and there's a theme of 100 happening there because when her grandfather built it, he promised they'd have 100 kids. And this place has magic because if there's like a blizzard in the wintertime, animals flock there, and blueberries grow all through the winter, and they know that there's something special about this place. Unfortunately, things at the Hundreds are not so great. We start the story when Quinn is just beginning the school year. She has an older brother named Reed who is out of high school, and then a younger sister named Fern. And Fern has been sneaking out all the time, and we start understanding that these siblings don't get along with each other very well. They don't speak to one another, and things aren't great. They have 2 wonderfully awesome parents, and they also have a grandmother that lives with them as well. And their family is kind of hippy-dippy with the food that they eat. So they're all natural, vegan kind of stuff. I don't know if they're vegan, but very natural kind of foods. And so she and her dad sneak off to the Waffle Mart at one point in the story so that they can get some real waffles. But Quinn is coping with a tragedy. She has lost her best friend, Dylan. And through flashback chapters that set throughout the story, we come to understand how that happened. And immediately from the get-go, we know that Quinn thinks that she is a monster and that losing Dylan is all completely her fault. And that everything's gone wrong is her fault, and that everyone hates her, and she just is full of self-loathing. We learn that there was a boating accident and different things happen, and Quinn is she's suddenly struck with this inspiration that she wants to fix up one of her grandfather's old boats, and she and her grandmother kind of team up and work on this together, and she thinks that maybe that will help her get over her trauma that she's been through. We also have Quinn's best friend Hannah, who is an aspiring makeup artist, and they put together fun makeup looks for YouTube and different types of things like that. And Hannah is just one of those girls that's a great best friend. And we have Alexander, who is a new boy. He has a Greek name, but is from England, and he has moved with his grandmother to this town, Winship, Maine, where the story takes place. And he is the new kid who is very much unused to how things work in Maine. Something else interesting about the town of Winship, Maine is that there is a legend that near the camp, which is right on the ocean, there is a sea monster. And so Quinn thinks that there are 2 monsters. One is the sea monster and one is herself, because she feels like she is the monster, as I mentioned before. Now, I'm not going to say anything more particularly about the story until I get to the spoilery part, but I do want to take a minute and show you the fun goodies that came with the Once Upon a Young Adult Book Club box. So they sent this card, which was not one that you had to get to a certain page to read, but I used it as a bookmark as I read the book. The deeper in the ocean the creature lives, the more likely it is to be strange, totally different from the other life. From other life, that's where we find our monsters. And this actually comes from a podcast that Quinn listens to about strange creatures in the ocean, and she really is interested in that and wants to study marine biology a lot more. Her father also teaches marine biology at the university, so they have that connection of loving science. Now, when I got to page 70, we had this fun polka-dotted package, and at the point in this story, by the way, if you have ordered this box and don't want to know what the gifts are, stop watching, because I'm about to show you. All right, at the point in this story, Quinn and her grandmother are outside and it's cold, and her grandmother brings her a thermos of hot cocoa. And so the gift was this cute mug that says, "Welcome to Winship," and they've got the little creature there, and it says, "Where blueberries grow no matter the season, and a mystical monster lurks in the sea." In the story, they call the monster Wessie, kind of a spin-off on Nessie from the Loch Ness Monster, plus the W from Winship. So they have touristy kind of things centered around that legendary monster. It also came with a packet of hot chocolate mix, which is really fun. I'm not in the mood for hot chocolate because it is summertime right now, but when it gets to be hot chocolate time, or maybe if we have a cold day here, I am definitely going to be using that, and I love this thermos. It's so much fun. All right. The next gift that came was from page 118, and it talks about some things that you can get in a gift shop there in Winship. And the gift was a necklace. Now, how this works is it's a choker necklace, so you fasten it like this so you can still see the black part, and then this chain part, I believe, is supposed to hang down behind, or you could hang it in front, or however you want to style this little slinky part. I was a teenager in the 90s, so I did have a lot of choker necklaces back then, lots of black velvet choker necklaces, and now they're a thing again, I guess. One of my students told me one day that I looked like a millennial when I wore a choker necklace, so I guess that chokers are now a new trend again. Interesting. Kind of makes me feel old. All right, the next thing was from page 142, and we can see they have this cute envelope with blueberries, which are, again, something that grows in the camp at the Hundreds. And inside are some black and white photographs. Fern, Quinn's younger sister, takes pictures, and she keeps a whole bunch of pictures of Dylan, which is the friend that they lost. So these are meant to represent him, I suppose. And I don't think they're the same model in each photograph. I haven't done a real study to see, but they're just teenage boy with curly hair. So there you go. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these, but I don't know. I'll find something. All right, the last one came in this cute package with the swirlies, and it was at page 343, which was 3 pages away from the end. So just as we're in this big emotional moment and something exciting is going to happen, and I'm like, I have to stop and open gift. But that's okay because it's a gift, and this is my favorite one out of the gifts that came with this book. So there is this bag that zips around the top and the sides, and it says, "Live in the sunshine, swim in the sea, drink in the wild air." I think. Some of the words are hard to see at the bottom. This is cute plaid, and then we've got this little sea monster-y creature here with the words. And then inside of it was this, the fall and rise of the Hundreds, with a drawing of a superhero rising up out of the water. All right. Now, here is the time for spoilers. If you haven't read this book and you've stuck with me this far and you've seen the gifts, but you don't want to be spoiled for some things, bye. See you later. All right, so from this point on, I am going to be spoiling some things that happen in this book, and I'm not going to talk about every single thing, but I do want to start by talking about Dylan. Dylan is the boy that was last. What we end up finding out, and it takes pretty much till the end of the book to find out the whole story of what happened, is that they were having a goodbye party for Dylan because he was planning to take off on this big road trip, and his first goal was to see the Grand Canyon, and then he was just going to kind of play life as it goes, see what happens. And they are having this party, and teenagers got drunk. And Quinn decides, hey Dylan, let's go get in my grandpa's old boat that has dry rot in it, and let's go out in the water and look for Wessie, the sea monster. Well, what happens is that because the boat has dry rot and some other things that are wrong with it, it's really slow and it starts drifting into the seaweed, and they get tangled. And so Quinn jumps into the water to try to untangle the seaweed from the propellers of the motor, and she gets stuck. Meanwhile, Dylan sees the sea monster approaching, and he's freaking out, going, Quinn, get back in the boat. And she's like, I'm stuck, I can't. And so he dives in to save her, and in the process, he drowns. She goes back down several times, and she's screaming for help, but he does not make it out of the water alive. And so through the process of this whole story, she's trying to come back to herself after that horrific loss. I can't even imagine what that would be like to have a best friend that you love and to lose them in that horrible, tragic way. It's devastating. One of my cousins lost someone very dear to her in a boating accident, and it just makes me think of how awful that was, and just... So I completely understand why Quinn is thinking so badly of herself, because anytime that you have that type of situation, there's going to be survivor's guilt as well as guilt that she couldn't save him and feeling like everything was her fault, and if she hadn't have gone in the boat, he wouldn't have gone with her, and just horrible, horrible amounts of guilt. And so she's trying to come back to herself. Her family's a mess. The siblings won't talk to each other because, as it turns out, all three of them loved Dylan. Her older brother Reed, who is gay, loved Dylan. She loved Dylan, and her younger sister loved Dylan. So they're all mad at each other and struggling to deal with this loss in their own way. All three of these siblings, and they just can't seem to rely on each other to make it through, which would be horrible. My siblings, I mean my sister especially, are who I rely on the most to get through things like that. Just, I can't imagine. So, with Alexander, he's the new boy that comes into town, remember. There is a romantic-ish situation, and by the end, Quinn realizes it's okay for me to love Alexander. I will always love Dylan the best. He was the first one that I loved, and it's okay that I love Alexander too. And Alexander is the one who draws the graphic novel, The Fall and the Rise of the Hundreds. Now, the gift that they sent is full of blank pages except for that very first one, but in the book, Alexander draws Quinn this whole beautiful graphic novel describing her as a superhero. And earlier in the story, Quinn had talked about her grandfather painting a picture of her grandmother and how he perfectly caught her essence. And she had said something about, I can't imagine a better expression of love than to see someone truly as they are and to capture that in art. And then that's what Alexander does for her. And it's just lovely. I mean, yeah. I flew through this book. I read it in less than 24 hours, and I'm going to be thinking about it for a long time. If you saw the unboxing where I got this book, I also got my Plain Jane, which I had freaked out over in the video, and I've been wanting forever and ever, but something told me that I should read this first, and I am so glad that I read this. I wish that I could put it in my classroom for my students to read, but with the teens partying and getting drunk, and just a couple of other scenes that mention some mildly sexual things and the use of the F word, I'm not going to put it in for 7th graders to read because they're 12 and 13 years old. But if any of my high school kids need a book to read, or anybody else that's a little bit older, I'm definitely going to be recommending this one. I cannot recommend it to you more highly. It is just so good and so lovely, and yeah, oh yeah. I have no words. I'm an English teacher and I write. I should be able to come up with good words for this book, but I can't. It's just yeah, you have to read it to get it, I guess. Yeah. I should stop talking now so that I can quit annoying you with my lack of words and that you can go and read this book or read another book or whatever it is that you have to do. So, I hope that you are having a wonderful and bookish day. As always, happy reading. Adios.